3.
In part 1 of the first aid, we had finding the problem. There were 5 steps that were for that finding the problem. If you remember, scene is safe. We are going up on and we see somebody down. We want to take a photographic eye of what is happening, because once you start moving somebody, you have disrupted the scene. You watch any murder mysteries lately? So that you want to make sure that you know what is going on, and you don't want to put yourself into harm's way either if there is a lot of, let's say, poisonous gas in the area, and it would have you pass out too. So that's what you're looking for. Then, remember we added a little shout in there. Shout, tap, and then you're gonna shout again. This is where I don't wanna do it by myself. Somebody please come and help. Then we're gonna check for breathing and pulse. Now, with the pulse, you're going to take your 2 fingers. You don't wanna take you don't want to take your thumb, because your thumb actually has a pulse. So you want to take it and you want to actually do it towards you, and you want to have it down. You do not want to reach over the person's throat, because you could possibly block off their carotid pulse by doing that. If you remember, we said it was 5 to 10 seconds. Then, after that, we're still going to call the 911, get the AED and first aid kit. Now, because they don't have breathing and they don't have a pulse, we are going to start CPR. And with CPR, we start with compressions. You might have people that say, oh no, you have to start with breathing. That was a curriculum about 10, 15 years ago. We're going to start with compressions, unless you pull them out of the water. If anybody has been certified as a lifeguard, you know you start with the breathing first, and then you go to the compression. So that's a little bit different. Both American Heart and American Red Cross note that start with breathing if you have a water, because it's more of a suffocation in a drowning situation. We're also, as you are reading through this, you're going to have using an AED. And you will have this on one of your quizzes. I want you to turn it on, or you're going to see on one of the quizzes in the book, it's going to say power it on. Then I want you to examine the chest. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to first bare the chest, and then make sure and you'll read this in your book, is it too hairy, then you might have to use a razor, or you might have to use another pad to exfoliate the chest, something like this, so that the pad will fit on the chest and everything. So that's part of the examining the chest, to bare the chest. Then you're going to apply the pads. And what you want to do is you want to apply the pad in the upper right and the lower left. Okay, and the pads actually have a picture on them so that it shows it that way, but if for some reason you get it mixed up, you still want to make sure it's upper right, lower left, even though the pad might be different. After you apply the pads, you might have to plug in the pads to the AED machine, or you might have to push a button to do it, or some, once they get them on, they will realize and they will start the 5th, and it will analyze. You want to, when it is analyzing, you want to make sure that you're having everybody clear, because you do not want them to touch the patient when it is analyzing. What I like to say too is analyze and switch, because if you have been doing CPR, you want to make sure somebody else is doing it, so the one that brought the AED can now start doing compressions. It's going to say shock, or the AED will tell you, or no shock. There are 2 major malfunctions of the heart. The heart may be in ventricular fibrillation, which is totally disorganized, or ventricular tachycardia, which is extremely too fast. If it's those 2, then the AED is going to want to shock the heart to stop that irregular activity, and then the heart will start again. If the heart is in a systole, that flat line, it will not shock a systole. And, you know, although way back when movies used to, you know, show where they took the paddles and they shocked the person after it went on a flat line, and he comes back to it and he goes, I love you, dear. You know, I mean, it's fake from the beginning to the end. So you want to make sure that you go by this. Now, if it does say shock or no shock, you're going to shock, but just make sure, again, everybody's clear. No shock, you're going to start CPR. And you're going to begin with compressions. Okay, again. So those are the 7 steps I want you to kind of remember. They're not all listed in your book. They are, these were taken mainly from the Red Cross, but it gives you more of an idea of everything you have to do from the start, bringing that AED in to the end, working with it.